I need to cut these tubes to have miter cuts. To do that, I use the angle grinder with the thinnest blade possible. This can be done by cutting on one side and then rotating to make the other cuts. Of course, this can be done in the same chop saw, but I thought let me try this way and see. I would say that these give clearer cuts but takes more time. To begin with, the welding table has to be flat. So I use my work table. It's the flattest surface I have. Then I can tack weld on the diagonal opposite corners. This is very important because the metal flexes when you weld and keeping diagonally reduces it. Before flipping the metal pieces, I make sure that it is still square by measuring the diagonals. Then I can remove the clamps and flip the entire tabletop. I wanted to show a trick that I learned from the local fabricators here. Whenever there is a gap that cannot be filled with welding, I use these galvanized screws to fill it. These melt away easily and fill the gaps too. Because it's galvanized, stay away from the fumes. Then I can grind away all the excess to keep the surface flat. Here I am measuring about 4 inches from the ends. This is to inset the legs a bit so there is gap to use the clamps in the future. Now I can keep the square tubing on the inside of the marking and clamp it. Then I tack welded one side while on the other I used a square to check if the legs are straight. By using force I make sure it is straight and then weld the rest of it. After each welding, I take this welding hammer to knock off the slug. In this case, the weld was only half done. So I go ahead and do the rest of the welding. I am new to welding and until I am sure of all my weldings, this is the best way for me to check and improve. It's the second day, so let's recap what has been done till now. First, I made this tabletop and I made sure that these are miter cuts. The reason for miter cut is if I just weld them by butt jointing them, then there will be holes of the tube seen. After welding all the joints, I made sure that I grinded all the weldings because that's the step that takes most of the time. Then after that, I cut these legs, and as you can see, these legs are of different height because there will be casters only on this two legs and those two will actually touch the ground. This way I can just lift it from that side and then move it along. The cross bracing that goes from this leg to the bigger legs have to be parallel. It's just a bit of calculation because this is shorter and that is longer because of the caster wheels. You can see here the legs are bending outwards. This is because I welded them on the sides which pulled away the metal pieces. So using a clamp, I pull them back in place. Then I can weld them so the connection is permanent. Sometimes I put the table on the side to do the same. That's because I want the base as the reference to pull the other side down. The moment of truth to see if the table has come out as I thought it to be. Will it rock or stay flat? As you can see, I've calculated the height to be a little less than what I want. I want it to be almost the hip size so that if I bend and I weld, it should be perfect. But this is 30 inches and I think it's too less. What it should be around 34 inches, 4 inches above, and that would help. So according to my calculation, I have to add 8 inches of rod on the other side. Now that will go up and this will be down so that the casters, instead of going on the other side, will be attached to this side. So it's a small correction, but I thought I should mention it because mistakes do happen and you should always find a way to correct it. By clamping the extra piece, I can weld the two pieces. First on the top I tack weld it and then on the sides I weld the rest. Once all the sides are welded, I can grind it and make the seams almost invisible. To attach the caster wheels, I first bolted to a flat plate and then I welded the plate to the leg. This way in the future, if I want to replace the caster wheels, I can do it by just removing the bolts. Here I am welding some 2020 scarf tubing. This will hold the chop saw and in a minute you will see how it goes into the table. By tapping it in place, I can fit it snugly. Then again, diagonal welding to make sure it doesn't flex. This is the third day in building this table and hopefully the last day. So last night I made this small kind of a indent in the base for the chop saw to actually sit in, and because it's indented below, when I put the chop saw here, it will be flush to the surface. This will also add as an outfit table when I'm chopping the metal pieces, so that is the reason for this. And of course I will put a plywood on top of this and then put the chop saw on it, so it will be nice and sturdy. But what I'm most excited about is adding these extension arms to this tabletop. Let me explain that. I have this 40 by 40 tubes and I also have 30 by 30 tubes. What I'm planning to do is weld 40 by 40 on these sides and that side as well, and then run the 30 by 30 inside it. Of course there will be a little bit of play, but that's very little and I think it will be okay. Enough of talking, let me get started doing it. So I clamp the 40-40 square tubing to the side and check if it's flat to the surface. Then I can weld it at regular intervals instead of welding all throughout. Now I can put the 30-30 square tubings inside, and at the end I have used these clamps to temporarily hold it in place. First I tack weld it so I can remove the clamps. Then I can pull it out and flip it. You can see how this extension arms is just half the length of the table, and that's because it goes on both the sides. And after welding, this is how we can extend the arms. The next step is to make the shelves, and I have here all the pieces cut. I'm going to just assemble it quickly using glue and some brad nails, then put a backer board of 6 mm, so that should be holding it. I came up with the number 16 inches because the welding rods are 14 inches, so 16 inches looks like a good place to start with. These are just going to be butt joints. It's 18 mm plywood, so it's plenty strong. Brad nails hold the pieces together until it is dry and offer good strength. You can see that I have added a hinge to the drawer, and this will get screwed into the extra piece of metal that I have welded. Using self-tapping screws, I can attach the hinges to the metal. And here it slides in and out. And for the base, I can throw in some more plywood so I can keep the angle grinders and other machines on it. Even these are fixed using the self-tapping screws. Now the top. I know a thickness of at least 12 mm is required for a good welding surface. That is because with immense heat the surface wouldn't bend. But I do not have that kind of money right now at this point of time. You can consider pitching in by checking out my Patreon page. You can check that out in the description. So for now, this will be the tabletop, just a fine perforated metal sheet. It is bendy, but it will do for now. Here's the final table in place, and I can start arranging things into it. Now that the table is almost done, I want to go over a few additions that I made after shooting the video. First is this, I would call it as a hinged drawer, because what I did was I put a 40-40 beam over here. It's just an extension on this part so that it provides a place where I can hinge the drawer. And I used self-tapping screws to drill to the wood as well as drill to the 40-40. Actually, just pull it out and take things from it whenever I need it, and when I don't need it, it goes out of the way. Actually, this was inspired by another YouTuber. I'll put his link to the video on this top right corner. The second addition that you can see is I've added handle to this extendable arms. All I did was take up a flat bar and then just bend it and then welded it over here. Now it helps me easier to just pull and close it. So this gap came up when I put this shelf over here, and I thought this would be a perfect place to put the switchboard. And to do that, I use this backer board which screws to these two beams, and to that the switchboard is screwed to. And because it's all wood, there's no problem of electrocution. On this side of the table, I made sure that I give kind of a rod here. It's bent a little outwards so that I can hang all the clamps. Also, it just helps me put my negative connection over here. So that's just 2 in 1, but this place is for the clamps, so that I can, whatever clamps that I'm using on the table, that can hang over here. And on the front, again, I took a flat bar and then just bent it like this and screwed it to the sides, which will serve as a place where I can put in the helmet. I know this is not the way to hang the helmet, but this one is an automatic one with a solar charger, and it serves, if I put it like this, it gets charged by the sunlight. So that's why I hanged it like that. I think that's all about the welding machine. Please let me know how you like this video. The additions that I made, did you enjoy them? Please put them in the comments. If you like this video, please do like and share this video to the other people who are getting new into the welding. I am new into the welding, so everything is like a learning experience for me, and I thought I should document it and share it to the community, because it's from you people that I learn a lot. Follow me on Instagram to see what I'm working on right now. I post regular updates. I am JCRP and you've been watching Kalakar.in. Until next time, happy learning.